The restaurant glowed against the winter night in downtown Chicago, its tall glass windows reflecting streaks of red taillights and melting snow along the curb. Inside, crystal glasses chimed softly, and low jazz hummed through hidden speakers. The air carried the scent of rosemary, butter, and freshly baked bread. Emily Carter sat at a small round table near the window. She had chosen that table deliberately. A window meant openness, visibility. It was her quiet rebellion against invisibility. Her wheelchair was sleek and modern, matte black with silver rims, but she knew people saw it before they saw her. They always did. Tonight, though, she had promised herself something different. No shrinking. She wore a navy blue dress that flowed elegantly over her lap, paired with subtle makeup and small pearl earrings. Her hair fell in soft curls around her shoulders. She looked like someone ready for a beautiful evening. Because she was, or at least, she had been. Her phone rested on the white tablecloth. रात के 8 बजने में 24 मिनट बाकी. He was 6 minutes late. Not unusual. She took a sip of water and inhaled slowly, grounding herself the way her therapist had taught her years ago after the accident. The accident. 5 years earlier on a rain-slick highway outside Chicago. A semi-truck that didn't brake in time. The crushing metal. The hospital ceiling lights sliding past as she was rushed into surgery. And then the word. Paralyzed. At 28, she had lost sensation from the waist down. But she refused to lose the rest of her life. Rehabilitation had been brutal, not just physically, but emotionally. What hurt most wasn't the wheelchair. It was how people changed around her. Friends became awkward. Dates became hesitant. Conversations became careful. So she built a habit. Every morning she looked at herself in the mirror and said, "You are still enough." It had taken years for that sentence to feel true. Her phone buzzed. रात के 8 बजने में 18 मिनट बाकी. A message. She smiled instinctively, then read it. Hey, I don't think I can do this. I didn't realize your situation was that serious. I'm sorry. Her fingers froze. Her situation, that serious. No explanation, no call, no decency of facing her. Just retreat. The restaurant noise continued as if nothing had happened. Forks scraped plates. Laughter rose from a nearby table. A waiter passed by carrying a tray of wine glasses. Emily's throat tightened. She had told him before tonight. She had been upfront, confident, even light about it. He'd said it didn't matter. But sometimes it doesn't matter, only lasts until reality appears in front of someone. She stared at her reflection in the dark window beside her. For a second, doubt crept in like cold air through a cracked door. Maybe you expect too much. Her hands trembled slightly, so she placed them calmly in her lap. No, another habit. Dignity first. She signaled gently for the waiter. Could I get the check, please? Of course, he said kindly, though his eyes flickered with understanding. She knew that look too. Across the restaurant, a small voice suddenly pierced the low hum of conversation. Daddy, why is that lady sitting alone? Emily blinked. She looked up. A little girl stood just a few feet away, her bright yellow coat like a burst of sunlight in the warm-toned room. Her curls bounced as she tilted her head curiously. Behind her stood a tall man in a charcoal suit, clearly trying to catch up. Sophia, he murmured under his breath, embarrassed but not angry. We don't. It's okay, Emily said softly. The man met her eyes. There was no pity in his expression. Only concern. I'm sorry, he said. She's observant. That's a wonderful quality, Emily replied. The girl stepped closer, studying Emily with open curiosity. Did your friend leave? She asked. The directness would have hurt more if it came from an adult. But from her, it felt clean. Emily hesitated, then nodded. Yes, I think he did. The girl's eyebrows furrowed. That's not nice. A few diners glanced over, sensing the moment. The father exhaled gently. Sophia, sweetheart. No, Emily said again, smiling faintly. She's right. It wasn't. The man looked at her more closely now, noticing the steadiness in her voice, the grace in her posture. My name is Daniel Brooks, he said, extending his hand. And this brave question asker is Sophia. Emily recognized the name instantly. Daniel Brooks, the CEO frequently featured in Chicago business journals. Known for transforming his company culture through leadership discipline and strategic habits. She shook his hand. I'm Emily. Sophia suddenly looked indignant. You shouldn't eat alone. Daniel crouched slightly to Sophia's level. Sweetheart, sometimes people choose to. She didn't choose it, Sophia insisted. The honesty landed heavily in the space between them. Daniel stood slowly. He glanced at Emily, clearly weighing something. A decision. A small one. The kind most people avoid because it feels intrusive. If you would feel comfortable, he said carefully, Sophia and I were just seated over there. We'd be honored if you joined us. Emily blinked. She wasn't used to invitations after rejection. The restaurant seemed too quiet around them, not entirely, but enough to notice. She could say no, protect herself, leave with composure intact, but another habit stood inside her. Say yes to possibility. I'd like that, she said. Daniel immediately stepped aside to make space. He didn't touch her chair without asking. Didn't overcompensate. Didn't dramatize. He simply asked, may I? She nodded, and together they maneuvered toward their table. It was a simple act, but it felt monumental. As they settled, Sophia grinned triumphantly. See, Daddy, now nobody's alone. Daniel gave a small smile. You're right. Menus reopened. Water glasses refilled. The rhythm of the restaurant resumed. But something had shifted. Conversation began lightly. Sophia asked about Emily's job. I am a graphic designer, Emily explained. I create logos and digital art. That's so cool, Sophia said. Can you draw unicorns? Absolutely. Daniel watched the exchange with quiet attention. He noticed how Emily never once deflected questions about her wheelchair. When Sophia asked how it worked, Emily explained confidently. When Sophia asked if she could still dance, Emily smiled and said, in my own way. There was no bitterness in her tone. Just strength. Daniel finally spoke more seriously. Can I ask you something? He said gently. Of course. How do you stay this composed? She considered the question. Practice, she replied. After the accident, I realized I couldn't control what people saw first. But I could control what I practiced daily. And what's that? Not letting someone else's discomfort become my identity. Daniel absorbed that quietly. Across the table, Sophia dipped bread into olive oil with intense concentration. Emily added, habits shape us. If I practiced shame, I'd become small. So I practiced dignity instead. Daniel leaned back slightly. I try to build habits around courage, he said. In business, in parenting. Emily smiled. That's rare. He shrugged lightly. It shouldn't be. As dinner continued, laughter came easier. The sting of the text message began to fade, not erased, but softened. Because something unexpected had happened. Someone had walked toward her instead of away. When the check came, Daniel paid quietly despite Emily's polite protest. Sophia stood and wrapped her arms carefully around Emily's shoulders. You're not alone anymore, she whispered. The words were simple, but they reached somewhere deep. As Emily wheeled herself toward the exit later that night, snowflakes drifting past the glass windows, she felt something unfamiliar. Not romantic hope, not fantasy, but restoration. One stranger, one little girl, one small decision, and the habit of seeing someone, not their situation, not their limitation, but their humanity. Outside, the cold air touched her cheeks. She looked up at the Chicago skyline glowing against the dark sky and realized something powerful. The men who left had practiced avoidance. The men who stayed had practiced courage. And courage, repeated, becomes character. For the first time in a long time, Emily didn't feel like the woman abandoned at a table. She felt like the woman someone chose to sit beside. The grey winter had melted away, and the city felt alive again, trees budding along the sidewalks, sunlight dancing across Lake Michigan, children's laughter echoing through open park spaces. And inside the Bright Horizons Community Art Center, color exploded across every wall. Paintings, digital prints, murals created by children in wheelchairs, with prosthetics, with speech devices, each canvas loud with possibility. At the center of it all stood Emily. Not as the woman who had been abandoned at a restaurant table, but as the woman who had built something from that moment. Okay, artists, she called, clapping her hands gently. Remember, no mistakes, only redesigns. The kids cheered. It had started with one Saturday invitation from Daniel and Sophia. Just volunteering, just helping, but weeks turned into months. And now Emily ran the entire adaptive design program. She had created modified digital tablets mounted at wheelchair height. She redesigned brush grips for kids with limited hand mobility. She taught them how to turn frustration into creativity. The accident had taken her legs, but it had sharpened her vision. And Daniel had noticed. He stood quietly near the doorway, sleeves rolled up, watching Emily move from child to child, encouraging, adjusting, laughing. Sophia, now 8, sat proudly beside a little boy who struggled with fine motor skills. You hold it like this, Sophia coached patiently. Miss Emily says we don't, T-rush genius. Daniel smiled. That sentence, we don't, T-rush genius, was pure Emily. He remembered that winter night so clearly. The empty chair, the unread text message glowing on her phone. The way she chose dignity instead of collapse. He hadn't saved her, he had simply responded to his daughter's instinct. But that instinct had changed everything. Dad, Sophia ran over breathlessly. Show him, she shouted, dragging Emily along. Emily laughed, her cheeks flushed from excitement. On the far wall hung a large digital mock-up of a new app interface. Bold, clean, accessible. Daniel stepped closer. At the top of the screen were the words, "Walk toward." "What's this?" he asked, intrigued. Emily's eyes sparkled. "It's your company's new inclusion platform." He blinked. "What?" She nodded. "You said 3 months ago you wanted to expand remote hiring for people with disabilities." I couldn't stop thinking about it. She gestured to the screen. "This is a full adaptive onboarding system, voice navigation, customizable layouts, AI-based workspace adjustments." Daniel stared at her, stunned. "You built this, with a small team of volunteers," she admitted. "And a lot of coffee." Sophia tugged his hand excitedly. "It helps people work from home, Daddy. Like superheroes but with laptops." Daniel let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. In boardrooms, he negotiated mergers worth millions. He made strategic calls daily. But this was legacy. "You turned an invitation into innovation," he said quietly. Emily shrugged lightly. "You turned a dinner into opportunity." Their eyes met, and something unspoken deepened. Not dramatic, not rushed, but steady. A habit of choosing each other's growth. Later that evening, the art center buzzed with parents arriving for the spring showcase. Wheelchairs lined the walls. Service dogs lay calmly near chairs. Laughter bounced across the room. Emily stood near the entrance, greeting families. Daniel approached, holding 2 cups of coffee. "For the woman who doesn't rush genius," he said, handing her one. She smiled. "For the man who walks toward." They stood side by side, watching the room fill with color and life. "You know," Daniel said thoughtfully, "after that night at the restaurant, I kept thinking about something." "What's that?" "How easy it would have been to ignore you." She raised an eyebrow playfully. "Comfortable, too." "Yes," he admitted. "Comfortable." He took a slow breath. "But leadership isn't built in comfort. It's built in repeated courage." She looked at him warmly. "That little habit changed more than you realize." He turned to face her fully now. "It changed me." Before she could respond, Sophia's voice rang out from the stage. "Okay everybody, welcome to the first annual Walk Toward showcase." Applause erupted. Daniel and Emily both laughed in surprise. "She didn't tell me she was naming it that," Daniel whispered. Emily leaned closer. "You underestimate your daughter," Sophia continued proudly. "This place exists because Miss Emily says everyone deserves to be seen. And my daddy says we should walk toward people instead of away." The room clapped louder. Emily felt her throat tighten. Daniel reached for her hand, not dramatically, not possessively, naturally. She squeezed back. For the first time since her accident, she didn't feel like the strong one fighting alone. She felt partnered, not rescued, equal. After the showcase, the crowd slowly filtered out, leaving behind the soft hum of cleanup. Outside, the Chicago skyline shimmered in the evening light. Sophia skipped ahead toward the car. Daniel and Emily lingered near the entrance. "You know," Daniel said quietly, "that restaurant still has that table by the window." Emily smiled knowingly. "I remember." "Would you?" He hesitated slightly, not nervous, but intentional, "like to go back there next Friday?" Her heart fluttered, not because she needed validation, but because this time, she wasn't waiting for someone who might leave. She was being invited by someone who had already stayed. "I'd love to," she replied. He nodded gently. "No disappearing, no excuses." She laughed. "Good. I don't reschedule courage." As they walked toward the parking lot, Sophia ran back suddenly. "Daddy, hurry. We can't be late." "Late for what?" Daniel asked. Sophia grinned mischievously. "For our future." Emily burst into laughter. Daniel shook his head affectionately. But as he looked at Emily, really looked at her, he realized something powerful. That winter night had not been about pity. It had not been about romance. It had been about a choice. A small one, repeated. And now, because one man listened to a little girl, because one woman practiced dignity, an entire community stood stronger.